Hi, this is Corina Angela, and today I wanted to share with you a reading from my book. Um, yeah, this is entry number 4, and it was written on April 2nd, 2019. It's from my book, la la, Transference, Connect to Your Soul Self. It's a reference manual to discover your soul self, and I wrote it with Edgar Cayce and Gladys Davis Turner back in 2019. And it took me 4 months to write it. And I had no idea 5 years ago, more than 5 years ago now, what this work would turn into. And it's just incredible. And I'm just so incredibly grateful. So thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. And I'm just really grateful to share this amazing information that came through 5 years ago. Over 5 years ago. Time is irrelevant sometimes, but here it's like, yeah, it's great to keep track of it. This whole book was um, a step-by-step process that I had never encountered before, and I had never even published a book before. So, being on my path for a very, very long time, I began awakening at age 5. And there was just so much that began to open up for me that it was very difficult to function in mainstream world. And so here, going through this whole process in this book was just such a blessing because when Edgar and Gladys came in, it was like a whole new world open up for me. And I could feel comfortable in my skin because it's been difficult at times, incredibly difficult to remain here. And I know now that Edgar and Gladys came in for very, very specific reasons. Unbeknownst to me, when I was automatically writing this book in 2019, I had no idea what it would transform into, and all the beautiful wisdom and the teachings and the exercises in this incredible book would help so many people and reference so many amazing people. And I really want to read this entry for you today. So, entry 4, it was written on April 2nd, 2019. The time start was 7:15 a.m. and the time end was 7:29 a.m. And the entry is called Telepathy. Being different is your brilliance. Your difference is your brilliance. You are your own mentor when you are in your brilliance. Edgar Cayce. So I'll toggle back and forth, but all of these entries, the the timelines, the start and stop time, all the quotes, everything. I was pretty much the note taker, automatically receiving this body of work. And so each entry was given a name by Edgar or Gladys and the quote, and then I interjected my own personal process on every given day that I connected in with them. And it's all documented here in the book, and it takes you. This is just a journey. This is an amazing story, an amazing journey of my own personal process of how this all came to be, and this step-by-step process that I was documenting and automatically writing and connecting in with them on a daily basis. So here I'm interjecting what I was feeling on this particular day. Excited, I sprung out of bed this morning, eager to connect with Edgar and Gladys. We went through the same connection process as yesterday, and I'm feeling a nice rhythm settling into my body. I arrived at our same meeting place with my black notebook in hand and greeted Edgar and Gladys with a smile. I had my first question ready, queued up for Edgar. They were always ready and prepared for me when I arrived. It seemed and I felt that they knew which questions I would ask. So again, it is a step-by-step process. So this is entry number 4. So it's just a couple days into my, um, me connecting in with them. And it was a relationship that was being built over time, again, unbeknownst to me. But again, I'm tracking, what I'm sensing, what I'm feeling, and what I'm sensing on a deeper level on every given day. Q&A. So then we go into a Q&A. And CA, Corina Angela, I'm asking the question that I felt that they already knew what I was going to ask. So CA, what is telepathy? So now I'm knowing what telepathy is, but I'm wanting a deeper understanding for myself and for the reader. I'm for humanity in general, overall, you know, um, to really deep dive into what is telepathy from their energy and from my energy merging. What is telepathy? EC, Edgar Cayce. It is a stream of consciousness in the ebb and the flow, back and forth with the mind's eye, dialoguing, communication in the flow. It depends upon what frequency, vibration, and the other person is experiencing. So so I'm toggling back and forth. So Edgar, how he came in for me and through me into my awareness, into my etheric field. It was very broken English, but even one word meant 10 words. I could see and read between the lines, if that makes sense. So when I do these readings and I read these variety of uh, they come in a lot. Like um, they so these 44 entries are a variety of topics. So whatever they would bring in would be the focus for that day. And but these small paragraphs, there was so much more information. So it's wonderful for me to read it. And when I'm reading, I'm there again. I'm there, over 5 years ago, sitting on my couch and receiving the information, but also there's much more information now that time has passed here in the physical realm. Over 5 years have passed, so there's more information coming in. So I'm going to read it again. So it is streams of consciousness in the ebb and the flow, back and forth with the mind's eye. So he's talking about the third eye, right? We have a third eye, we have a fourth eye, we have many eyes, right? Our whole body is a mechanism for communication, right? We're breathing, we're sensing um, within our cells, within every fiber of our being. So it's just not our physical eyes. It's much more than that. It depends upon what frequency. So right here, he's talking about it depends upon the frequency that the other person is streamlining on and in, right? So he's really deep diving into the vibration. What's the other vibration of the other person? What are they experiencing? Um, a solid matter of streaming consciousness. So then again, he's going into it's a solid matter. It's frequency that we can tap into, and it depends upon the other person's frequency. So telepathy, we can, let's say you're in California and your friend's in New York City, right? And you are streamlining this consciousness, this frequency. Why? Because you're on the same frequency. Maybe you adore this person. You're just like, feeling amazing, and they're feeling amazing about you, over 3,000 miles away. It's the same thing. So that's what he's depicting here and explaining more of. CA, I understand. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets. So here I'm interjecting, like, yeah, okay, so I understand the streamline of consciousness. And I'm almost reflecting on what we are doing in this particular moment. I'm doing this with Edgar and Gladys. We have this streamline of consciousness that is getting stronger and stronger by day. EC, precisely. Children with telepathy are very important to connect with and teach how to hone in on their gifts very early in life. It allows them to be heard and to better understand their way of being. This builds up courage, strength, and confidence within them. Most of all, the connection with others who understand them will enable them to not feel so isolated in the world. CA, this seems very natural to me. Why is there so much resistance then? So I'm asking him, so this is so natural, what we're doing right here, right now, what I'm doing with Edgar and Gladys, it's just so natural to me. And then I'm reflecting back into my childhood of how I could speak with animals and and I could see things before they happened, or I could, you know, communicate in a different way, right? Why is that so easy, yet people are so resistant? And why looking back in my childhood, why was it not more supported? So I'm asking Edgar. EC, there are many children with resistance who are seen as different in the world. The difference is their brilliance. I get emotional sometimes too, because it's just it's so important. The difference is their brilliance, because they are so brilliant. They're incredibly brilliant. We are to work with children with second sight and to help them evolve into their wisdom. Working with these children needs to evolve. So he's really, honing it in there. It's just like driving it in there. It is so important that we work to evolve this. A different structure, curriculum, and attention to energy in these unique schools. So he's really diving in. So he's showing, so I'm going to toggle back and forth too. He began to show me, in picture form or feeling, and so all my clairs are open. So all of this information that is coming in is just not through automatic writing. Okay, if that's understandable. Edgar would show me snapshots, pictures, take me on journeys, and show me, different schools that will be available, readily available in the future, and how happy, he would, we would all, with Gladys project. He would, in a second, we would be in a classroom and, sitting there and playing and having fun, and it was a total different structure. So he would interject these prompts for us to go into, and then we come back and be where we were meeting at. So that's what was beginning to happen, more and more. He would just interject this information, but And it was always readily available. It was like all simultaneously happening all at the same time. It is a different way of learning. This will evolve. So after, you showing me, okay, so this is how the school systems are going to be in the future, and this will evolve. It'll evolve over time. So even reading this, projecting 5 years into the future here and now, 2025, this was written in 2019. So the timeline, reading it here and now, it's beginning, it's happening, things are shifting, things are evolving already. CA, I agree. It is so important for the evolution of our planet here, and I hope this soon will evolve. So I'm on board. I'm just like, yeah, come on, let's go. I'm just like, yeah. EC, yes, and that is it for now. CA, thank you, Edgar. So we we ended our meeting time and connection here, but then it went into a different kind of connection. So I go into, after I say thank you, Edgar, it's a closure that we are no longer in the place where we meet, and I'm back in my physical form. I open up my eyes and I'm reflecting. So this is the reflection piece of the book. I'm really, I'm reflecting what I just experienced, any other questions that come through, any other information that is to come through does come through the automatic writing. So then that takes on a different way of connecting with Edgar and Gladys, if that makes sense. My experience with Edgar and Gladys is that they appear to be this yin and yang energy. So through what I just experienced with them, they felt very balanced to me. So I'm explaining how it is on, just a few days into connecting in with them, how I'm experiencing their energy. Okay. It feels it feels very balanced. It feels very balanced, grounded, and pretty amazing. So I'm I'm explaining how I'm witnessing their energy together. I should mention that Gladys is recording everything that is transpiring within this process, so I can tap into her to recall the memory of our meeting at any time if I feel overwhelmed or have forgotten anything. So now it's just, if I, so as an automatic writer, I have been since I was 7. So I've been doing this for many, many years, but this was such an extraordinary, different way of writing and connecting and telepathically connecting with other energies, such as Edgar and Gladys's. Um, but so she was interjecting here, right here, that don't worry if you forget something, or if if so, because I would write down everything and then I wouldn't reread any of the information. And I honestly just started rereading. When I do these readings, I'm rereading, years later. So with this whole process, I would not go back and reread what I had written. So I didn't, yeah, so to be less overwhelmed. So, but now it's almost refreshing, because if I do forget something, she's recording everything. So she's writing it down, or, however she's recording it, and, she will interject and help me at any time throughout this book. This process I am experienced is it's just brilliantly orchestrated. Edgar is straightforward, quick, and staccato-like, with an uncanny way of tapping into all that there is. I am learning so much, and I am incredibly grateful. I find this all very fascinating, and I am so intrigued. I began to do some more research on children, telepathy, and how we may evolve while learning more about this. So this segment of the book, afterwards, as I'm writing, I'm getting more information. It's becoming very clear, and from Edgar and Gladys, that I need to do some more research with this and with children because it's so important to evolve it. Okay. So then I go into The New Kids on the Block, a Global Phenomenon by Mary Rodwell. So now I'm referencing books. So there was very, so this part of the work that Edgar and Gladys wanted me to put in the book, they would reference books. I would go on the internet and look for certain books, and they would give me the title of the book or um, uh, a word in the title, and then they would flash in a picture, if this makes sense, and then I would see it, as I'm scrolling. I'd be like, that's it. And they're like, yep, that's it. That needs to go in the book. So that's how the dialogue began in the very beginning, and it was very helpful. Later on in the book, I get very overwhelmed because there was parameters that Edgar and Gladys did not want me to read any of Edgar's readings through ARE. He didn't want me to read any of the books that have been published based on Edgar and Gladys. They didn't want me to read any of those articles or books or any of the readings, any of those, um, because they wanted me to remain pure and to receive their energy, if that makes sense. And if I read anything, a book, let's say, or it would cloud my perception. Um, I would be taking on other people's perceptions of their energy writing their books. So I wasn't to do any of that, and I didn't. And now I know why. But in the beginning, and this is in the very beginning of the book, it's entry number 4, and there's 44 entries. So you can tell this process is beginning in the very, very beginning of writing these books for them. Renowned prophet and healer Edgar Cayce, 1877 through 1945, not only spoke of the new humanity and reference to this as the fifth root race, but he also predicted that it would appear in the years of 1998 to 2010. Metaphysicians and other gurus also share the belief that the anticipation of this recent emergence of the new type of human they call indigos. They are also referred to as children of the new millennium, crystal children, children of light, and golden children, to mention a few. So so this piece of the puzzle, I wanted to say, this piece of the book, he wanted me to put this specific article in. He wanted me to, and I'll kind of go over how we found it and all that. So it goes on to say, this confronting evidence has even captured the attention and interest of the Chinese government, who are researching children who possess exceptional human functionality, EHF, more commonly referred to as China's super psychics. Unfortunately, this research also suggests that these children are so different that they are often misunderstood and described as suffering from ADD, attention deficit disorder. So then, so he wanted me to reference just these. So these few articles, um, I would go on the internet and he would say, look up Chinese, he would give me the name, and then I would look it up. And then it was as if they were both with me, looking the articles up with me. So he's like, yeah, that article, yes. So that's in the beginning. that's how it was working. And then later on in the book, uh, probably, I don't know, a couple weeks later, a week later maybe, it was so overwhelming because he was very specific on the actual readings that he had done, over 14,000 readings, many more than that, over um, when he was alive. And there was very specific readings that he wanted noted in the book. So, and he was very specific for that. So that's when Heather Felty came in. She was, and it's all in the book. It's all, how she came in and the story behind that. But I was very overwhelmed, and I asked Gladys for help. And a couple of days later, Heather Felty came in, and so when the information came in, I would give her the information. She would go to ARE, research the readings and whatever she could bring back to me, and then I would uh, have it, laid out, and then start asking, is this the reading? Is this what you want in the book? And I would get a yes or a no. So that's how all that happened. Um, and then I'm just so grateful that Heather agreed to help me with this book. It was really overwhelming. And again, I had never experienced this way of working before. So it was like, right, stop, go, and just remaining true with an open heart and as pure as I possibly could be and listening. So that was a huge part of my job. So then Dr. Diane Hensley Powell came in, and I had never, and came in meaning Edgar was very adamant that she be in the book. And again, this is over 5 years ago. And I remember just writing the name down, and not her full name. It was just like like Diane. And then I would get pieces like she's a doctor. She works with autistic children. And so I would start getting these, bits and pieces of information. And then so I'll read what's in my book. Yeah, I'll just keep reading. So, Dr. Diane Hensley Powell. Families and caregivers of several autistic children have reported instances in which children under their care now and know what others are thinking. They are aware of conversations that take place outside of their presence and know who is about to knock on the front door or call on the telephone. Such accounts have largely been ignored or dismissed by the science community. The work of Dr. Diane Hensley Powell, a nationally prominent Johns Hopkins trained neuropsychiatrist and former clinical instructor in psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, may change this. Among the autistic children that Dr. Powell has studied in this 11-year-old Haley, whose father contacted Dr. Powell in 2003 on the recommendation of an autism specialist. Although Haley's speech was severely limited, her parents believed her to be the mathematical savant. She could answer almost any math problem she was asked to solve. What Powell and her fellow researchers discovered was that Haley could only answer questions that were already known to the therapist or the researcher working with her. In other words, she wasn't solving difficult mathematical problems herself. She was reading the mind of the person who knew the answer or who was looking at a calculator which revealed the answer. This was proven when the battery power of the researcher's calculator went out and the researcher began using her iPad. The iPad was set up to provide answers in the form of the equations, whereas the calculator displayed answers in the form of the exponentials. Once the researcher moved to using the iPad, Haley immediately began to answer in the logarithmic equations. Further testing revealed that Haley knew the last name of her therapist's landlord and the name of a book that the therapist was thinking about. When the researcher made a mistake, so did Haley. So, so it's so fascinating, just incredible. From the very beginning, Edgar would give me exercises to do on my own for my own personal experience and expansion. And I found the clairvoyant streaming exercise below particularly interesting. This exercise is a great way to build confidence and learn to trust your own abilities. So I'm sharing with you now. Edgar told me to pick out a book, any book. He instructed me to sleep with it. He instructed me to sleep with my chosen book under my pillow, and upon wakening in the morning to write down any information I had retained. Here is a brief summary of my own personal experience utilizing this exercise. So then Edgar showed me this whole exercise to um, gain more confidence of what was transpiring. So there's exercise number one. This is the first exercise in this book, and there's 28 exercises. So this is my own personal process of going through this exercise first. So it's quite extraordinary, just the way it was designed. And it's, step one, step two, step three, and Edgar's actually leading me through this specific exercise. And my conclusion was that I did find it very, very helpful, but also I gained a lot of confidence and um, not of ego at all, but just a confidence within myself. Like, oh, when I woke up, I could retain certain pages. I began to depict, what page it was on. Was it on the left hand side? Was it on the right hand side? And these paragraphs would, come forth. And I've utilized this, this exercise many times. But what I found very interesting is I had never, so the work of Dr. Diane H. Powell is extraordinary, and I'm learning more about her as the time, just in the recent last week, her name keeps popping up, and I'm going to reach out to her because, unbeknownst to me, she's doing extraordinary work even now, 5 years, over 5 years later. And her name keeps popping up through different people or through social media. So I need to reach out to her because I find that when Edgar, this came through, over 5 years ago in 2019, I wonder what she was working on because the energy was so strong from her. I'm so curious as to know what she was working on over 5 years ago because even rereading this, I'm back in that energy. Edgar was it was so important to have her in the book, and she's also in the resource section in the back of my book. And it was just very, and I talk about her a couple more places in the book, and how important her work is to the world, and how much amazement she is, enlightening all of us too, especially with, autistic and, all of those children, um, how they are incredibly brilliant and amazing and how better to serve them and to create spaces for them to bloom and to blossom and all of that. So I just wanted to share that today. I hope this was helpful for you. It's been it's been such an incredible road, and I'm just so incredibly happy to share this book. And sometimes I just kind of, because timeline, I'm like, wait, what? I get caught up on timelines because, over 5 years ago, it's like I receiving all this information and then now having it more and more come to the forefront in my life and be more aware of these people like um, Diane. I just think she's doing such incredible work, and I'm so appreciative of the information that did come through and is coming through, and how Dr. Powell can um, help these amazing children, because it's a disservice not to. And I'm just so incredibly happy that you know we are showcasing certain skills, let's say, for the betterment of our world and the betterment of children and the betterment of adults and you and me and everybody. I just think telepathy and all is incredible to explore and to expand into, and what we can do with it and utilize it to the best of our abilities, and what we can bring forth, and what gateways we can open up to and understand more in very different ways, in multiple different ways. So thank you again so much for your support. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. Oh, there's so much more that I will be sharing. And thank you so much for supporting my work, our work. I always say my work, but it's our work. Edgar and Gladys. I'm just so happy and excited for this body of work. My second and third book was complete in 2019. It took 4 months to write all of these books, and everything's handwritten. So I'm putting, the second and third book into the computer now, typing away. So thank you for listening, and I'm just so appreciative of your support, and I'm so excited that all of this information is evolving as it should. Thank you so much, and until the next, I'm Corina Angela. Thank you.